What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. The NFL Scouting Combine is over, and what a combine it was. Xavier Worthy breaking the 40-yard dash. You had guys like Amarius Mims, an offensive tackle, coming in at 6'7" and running a 5-second 40-yard dash. You had Tavondre Sweat rumbling, bumbling, stumbling at 366 pounds to a very slow 40-yard dash time, but fast for a guy of his size. There was a lot of takeaways and a lot of fun stuff going on, but really the biggest takeaways outside of those on-field performers, how about all the rumors? How about all the speculation? We're hearing the Giants were checking in on Mike Evans and seeing what his market was. We're hearing that, they're checking in on guys like Danielle Hunter and Jonah Jackson, who we just did an episode discussing. Go check that one out on the channel. But now, what about those draft rumors that we're hearing for the New York Giants? Well, a lot of it surrounding that quarterback position. We're hearing a lot of talk about the worst kept secret at the Combine. The Giants are trying to trade up for a quarterback. We're also hearing maybe there's some change here in the rankings of the quarterbacks in this draft. Is J.J. McCarthy now QB3? Has Jaden Daniels fallen down the draft board for some teams? There's a lot of rumors and speculation going on, and that's just kind of what we want to unpack in this episode. Talk about some of the standout performers, top performers from the Combine that we would love to see wear Giants blue, and talk about some of these rumors that we're hearing about the New York Giants and how they might affect their plans going into free agency a week from today, and of course going into the draft at the end of next month. We're going to dive into all that in today's episode, but before we do so, make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. Listen on Apple or Spotify, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And what is that number one rumor, that number one piece of speculation about the New York Giants in this draft that you've heard from the Combine this weekend that you're most excited to talk about?
Well, I mean, it's kind of crazy hearing all the volatility about what the Giants could do with the 6th overall pick. We've seen that the Raiders have contemplated moving up to the 5 to 7 range, which would obviously include the Giants in that mix. Are they going to look to move up with the Chargers, or have they talked to the Giants about potentially moving up to 6 and trying to get a quarterback? I think they're going to probably have to move up a little bit further. But as you mentioned, J.J. McCarthy is flying up the draft boards. Now, Joe Milton had the highest, I think, mile per hour rate on his fastball there at like 62 miles per hour. J.J. McCarthy was second with 61 miles an hour. Dude has a gun, and he was throwing on the move. He was making some nice throws. Obviously, the timing was off some of the receivers, but throwing it deep downfield. What was he, 21 years old, 20 years old? So the teams, there's obvious reason as to why teams love the guy in terms of his upside and potential. We haven't seen him do a lot of those things at a high volume in college football, but teams are willing to, at least bad ones. I think probably some teams that have a year or two to give and wait and see will give J.J. McCarthy that leash. I don't know if Joe Schoen and Brian Dable do have that long of a leash. That's something we're going to find out. Obviously, they could go J.J. with 6 potentially, or even move up a spot or two and save most of their second-round draft capital. Total possibility. So I think, like, right now, if I'm the Giants, I'm thinking to myself, well, we keep hearing the same stories over and over again. Jordan Raanan is saying that they were looking at top receivers in the free agency class. So we know that they were interested in Mike Evans. Did that indicate that they want a quarterback in the draft class? We keep hearing, Dan Duggan of The Athletic says, the rumors are saying that the Giants want to move up. Every insider is saying the Giants want to move up. Is this the biggest smokescreen that Joe Schoen has ever dropped? Could be. It's like if you're a Call of Duty fan, you're playing Warzone, you're dropping those smokes trying to get to your next spot. This is what Joe Schoen is doing right now. And ultimately, we just don't know what the truth is behind all of it. We don't know if they do want to move up. Maybe they're just trying to express how much they want to, so they can move back a couple spots to get maximum capital and basically charge a premium for that 6th overall selection. Who knows? I don't see why the Giants would be leaking that much about why they would want to move up. Maybe you have an opinion on that, but why do you think it's in the best interest of the Giants to basically tell every single insider on the planet that seemingly knows, and they're saying the same exact thing, we want to move up to get a quarterback? How is this leaking? Why is it leaking? We know everything that Joe Schoen and Brian do is strategic. So I have to imagine this is not just a leak. This is a purposeful type of scenario. This is a strategy. Do you think that there's something behind it? Personally, I don't think they would leak all this stuff unless there was reasonable action to do so. Do you think that maybe they want to make it known so teams are more willing to move back? Teams are more willing to have the conversations. Maybe what they're trying to do is scare teams behind them and saying that, that we want to move up. There's no way you're getting ahead of us. We have the better draft pick. We have first-round picks at our disposal. Maybe they're trying to scare teams behind them to reduce the market of teams that would like to move up. Do you maybe think that's a possibility?
I don't know if it's necessarily scaring teams. I don't think that it's a smokescreen. I think the Giants want to trade up, and I think that they're trying to. I think more so what it is they're saying to the teams in front of them, hey, if you want to get out of this spot, call us first. We are the team that's most willing. We are the team that wants this the most. We're the team that's here and available to make that trade. So, Patriots, you don't want to use that pick anymore. You want to move down? Okay, text us. Like we're here. Move down with us. Washington, you want to move down? All right, I know interdivision trades are unlikely, but we're here. Call us first. Don't call, the Vikings. Don't call the Raiders. Call the New York Giants. Chicago, you want to get out of the number 1 pick? You want a historic deal? All right, we're here. We'll make a historic deal. F it. Don't call Minnesota. Don't call Las Vegas. We're going to give you the best and highest possible offer. I think that's more so what it is. The Giants, I don't think they're leaking things. I don't think rumors are getting out that they don't want to get out. I don't think it's a smokescreen. I think it simply is they want those teams in front of them to know that if they need a trade partner in a pinch, the New York Giants should be their first call. I don't think that this is a deal that gets done weeks in front of the draft. I think this is a deal that happens on draft night because honestly, we've heard so much volatility, as you mentioned, Alex, with these quarterback rumors. Man, Jaden Daniels could be on the board at number 6 at this point. Drake May could be. JJ McCarthy could be. I don't know how it's going to shape out, and I don't think anybody does. We keep hearing all these different things. Oh, all of a sudden, JJ McCarthy's QB2. Oh, you know what? Actually, he missed a couple throws at the combine. He's QB4. Oh, Jaden Daniels didn't need to do any on-field workouts. Okay, well, now the fact that he didn't do on-field workouts might make him fall in the draft. We don't know what's going on. You're going to hear a lot of conflicting rumors and reports all month of March leading up to the draft at the end of April. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be extremely volatile. But really, my main takeaway here is not that the New York Giants have some leaky ship, that they're loose-lipped, that, they're sending smoke screens out. It's really just they have one thing in this draft that they want, and they want those teams in front of them to know that that's what they want, and they're going to do anything they can to get what they want, because that's how Joe Schoen always is. Joe Schoen wanted one player in the first round last year. He wanted Deonte Banks. He was picking 25. The team at 24 was the Jacksonville Jaguars. He said, you know what? I heard that other teams behind me want Deonte Banks. I'm moving up one spot, making sure that I get what I want. That's what's going on here, in my opinion. Joe Schoen is making sure that everybody in front of him knows, and everybody behind him too, knows that he is the team that's going to be, he is the general manager that runs the team that's going to make that trade for the quarterback. And that's really just the reality of the situation here, is I think that the Giants want a quarterback that badly, and they're willing to do whatever they can to get one, and they just want those teams that might be contemplating trading down, they want them to know that the Giants are that team to trade down with. And I really do think there's a solid chance that the Giants end up trading up. But I also think, Alex, and we kind of touched on this earlier, I think there's an opportunity here where the Giants get a quarterback to fall into their laps. Now, this also has to do with the fact that J.J. McCarthy is on such a rise, and he is likely to go in the top 10, and it sounds like maybe the Giants are interested in making J.J. McCarthy a top 10 pick. Maybe they can land him at 6, maybe he falls into their lap, or maybe one of those other teams, who knows, maybe Washington just falls in love with J.J. McCarthy and goes with him at number 2. Then all of a sudden you're talking about at number 3, Jaden Daniels and Drake May are still on the board. Okay, so now you don't have to trade up to 3, maybe you trade up to 4, right? And maybe quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, 4 in this draft. But we've talked about this before, Alex. How often do quarterbacks actually go picks 1, 2, 3? Every year we hear this nonsense. We hear a quarterback is going to go with the first 3, maybe the first 4 selections. Then it's usually, all right, quarterbacks go 1, 2. Then there's a little bit of a wait. Then there's another quarterback, another wait, and another quarterback. So the supply and the demand is really imbalanced this year. There's a lot of supply and a lot of demand. So a lot of assumptions are being made about where quarterbacks are going to go. But again, the reality of the situation is that the NFL draft is super volatile. You don't know what's happening until it happens. And I just think that all these rumors connecting the New York Giants to quarterbacks, the one takeaway is that the Giants are interested in quarterbacks. It's not that they're smoke screening. It's not that they're, getting their ship leaking. It's nothing like that. It's just the Giants want a quarterback, and they want everybody to know it because they're going to do everything in their power to go ahead and get that quarterback. And that's how you have to treat that quarterback position. It's the same thing that the Buffalo Bills were doing back in 2018 when they were going after Josh Allen. This time that year, everybody knew what Buffalo wanted to do. They wanted to trade up and go get a quarterback. What do the Giants want to do this year? They want to trade up and get a quarterback. So I think that's what's going on, Alex. That's just my take on it. But, of course, others might disagree with me. Maybe it's a smokescreen. Maybe they're going with a wide receiver. I don't know. One thing that I do want to touch on, though, Alex, another topic of conversation that I want to bring up is this offensive tackle class. And I just want to say that it is stellar. It is deep. So a lot of Giants fans, not a lot, but there's a portion of the fan base that feels like they should go offensive tackle at number 6. I'm going to quickly shoot this down and say, I think that Joe Alt can have a Rashawn Slater impact in the first season of his career. I'm serious about that. I think he can be an all-pro. He is that good, and he looked that good at the Combine this year. But that will not happen with the New York Giants, and I'll tell you why. This guy is a left tackle. The Giants are not drafting a left tackle. They do not need a left tackle. Look at Joe Alt's career history. He has never played right tackle. And go back and watch this combine, watch his highlights. When they had him stand on his right side, play some right tackle, do some drills as a right tackle at the combine, honestly, guys, Joe Alt just looked uncomfortable. He looked like he didn't want to do it. He looked like he didn't want to play right tackle at the combine, and I don't think he wants to do it at the next level. He is a left tackle. The Giants do not need a left tackle. They are not taking Joe Alt. They are not taking Olu Fashanu. The only offensive tackle in the first round that really makes sense for them, Talisi Fuaga, because he is a right tackle. But really, more likely than those guys, how about round 2 if Amarius Mims out of Georgia falls into their lap with the number 39 overall pick? That's a right tackle. That's a supreme athlete. That's a guy that I think makes sense for the Giants. But Alex, I just had to get that off my chest and talk about Joe Alt because I love Joe Alt. I think he is an exceptional offensive tackle prospect. He is not an option in my eyes for the New York Giants, and that's just how I feel. But I do want to hear your thoughts and everything about the offensive tackle class, Alex, because I know you've seen what I've seen. A lot of athletes out there, a lot of really impressive tackle prospects. How do you feel about that? The Giants obviously need to address the position at some point in this upcoming draft class. Do you think it happens in the first round, or do you think it happens later on?
I don't think it happens in the first round. I've said this 100 billion times. Spending 3 top 10 picks at the offensive tackle position in 4 years is simply bad practice. That indicates you have bad coaching, not bad talent, bad coaching. The Giants need to get the most out of the players they already have. Evan Neal has to reach his potential. Josh Azudu has to play well, has to be an impact piece at some point. Marcus McKethan, maybe he can be a depth. We have to get John Michael Schmitz. These guys need to be coached up. We don't need to keep drafting players to replace the players we've already freaking drafted in the last 3 years, my friends. That's not how it goes. That's how you destroy a team. You keep drafting the same position in hopes of finally figuring out the problem. The problem was coaching the whole time. So here's what I'll say about that. You mentioned the offensive tackle class. The offensive line class in general is strong this year. Spend a second-round pick or a third-round pick. That's it. That's the maximum. Anything in the mid-rounds, sure. Find some guys with upside and athletic profiles that are encouraging and enticing. But first-round offensive linemen are not necessary right now because, as you said, Joe Alt and Fashanu are left tackles. You're asking them to switch positions, a position that they could be all pros in or pro bowlers in year one. You're asking them to go to play a new position where they have to learn new technique and change their footing, change their entire fundamental base. That is not a winning strategy, my friends. It isn't. So ultimately, I think, and we've heard it from 100 billion offensive linemen that say it over and over again, switching from left to right tackle is not as simple as people think it is. It is incredibly difficult. So you're asking a player that is being drafted as a top 10, top 5 pick at left tackle to play a new position. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So let's just eliminate that from the narrative and the equation right now. There are plenty of decent options at tackle that the Giants could, you kind of mentioned maybe off, I don't know if you mentioned it in this video yet, but Amarius Mims, a guy that really stood out at the combine, he could be a second-round player for the Giants as a right tackle, as a guy that you could move to right tackle, have play right tackle, flexibility, good athletic profile. This is maybe someone with that could be a good fit for us. What are your thoughts on that? Going for a guy like Amarius Mims, someone in the second round, spending one of those day 2 selections. I think that's probably our best avenue if the Giants don't want to sign somebody in free agency.
Yeah, I just mentioned Amarius Mims. I think he makes a lot of sense. Listen, he might go in the back end of the first round, and the Giants might not have the opportunity to draft him in round 2. However, if they stick and pick and they still have that number 39 overall selection, trading up to about the 30th overall pick, moving up there, packaging maybe a 4th or a 5th to do so, makes a lot of sense. You can land Mims there. What I like about Mims, athleticism, like the dude is peak athlete for an offensive tackle. What I don't like about him, lack of experience. I don't know if he's a plug-and-play day 1 starter. He could be just because he's got the build for it. He's got the size, the shape. This is the most moldable ball of clay out of those tackles that aren't going top 3 in this class. But with Mims, I mean, he's never started a full season in college at any position. Only ever played right tackle, only played 7 games in 2023 due to injury, so real lack of experience here. This is a guy that I think starts in year 1, doesn't get good until year 2 or 3. This is a project type of player, but a project that I would love. I would love Amarius Mims on the New York Giants. I think he's a great player with a lot of potential, sky-high potential, but not sure if he's going to be there for the Giants when they're picking number 39. Also not sure anymore if Xavier Worthy is going to be there. Xavier Worthy, the biggest winner at the Combine because he broke the record in the 40-yard dash. So a while ago, guys, I mentioned Xavier Worthy on this channel, said, what if the Giants wanted to do Something similar to what the Miami Dolphins do on offense. What if they wanted to have Jalen Hyatt as a speedster, but bring in another speedster, the biggest speedster in Xavier Worthy, maybe in the second round, maybe in the third round? Well, hell, that might have to be in the first round now. Xavier Worthy breaking the 40-yard dash record, looking smooth in his routes, looking just excellent in all of the athletic testing. Might end up being a first-round pick when it's all said and done, but also still might land at number 39 overall. This is a guy that I think the Giants could absolutely consider drafting and having an offense that emulates what the Miami Dolphins do. Worthy, though, some of the pros for him, of course, his speed, his ability to get open. I think he's a great route runner, but some of the cons here, he's got a little bit of a drops problem. He's very skinny. He's only 165 pounds. How many wide receivers have succeeded at that weight at the NFL? Well, I'd argue Devontae Smith in a similar weight range. He's succeeded quite well, but Xavier Worthy, a little bit of a different player there. I really like him, though, Alex. I do want to hear your thoughts on him, your reaction to him breaking the 40-yard dash record. Of course, I've mentioned Worthy several times on this channel, and I've kind of said that he's one of my guys in this draft a long time ago. So now seeing him run that 40, my shades of Tyreek Hill that I mentioned on this channel a while ago, they're definitely starting to show up. How are you feeling about him? And are there any other wide receivers that stood out to you at the Combine that you think could be like priority targets if they fall into the Giants' lap on day 2?
Well, Xavier Worthy, skinny dude, man. Man, he is skinny, skinny, skinny. He's a guy that I think in the right scheme could be absolutely phenomenal. Of course, that speed is legendary. You're not going to find anyone faster than the guy. So I don't think the Giants get him, but I think he's probably sneaking his way into the first round now with that speed. He is the quintessential Kansas City Chief receiver. You know what I mean? Speed, guy that gets open, guy that can take it to the crib at any second. He's going to the Chiefs. I'm calling it right now. He's going to freaking Chiefs at 32. But I'll tell you this. I think there's a lot of receiver talent that could be game-breaking. And look, Keon Coleman, Xavier Legette, I know Brian Thomas had a ridiculous athletic profile score, relative score at the Combine. He was absolutely grading out of his mind. And I think that right now, the Giants, if they don't get a receiver in the first round, there's going to be players that can make a big impact, if not have WR1 upside in the second. You know, you're a big Legette fan. You know, there's lots of really good players. I love Malachi Corley. Not a second-round pick for me, but probably a third-round pick at this point in time. Maybe a mid-second-round pick. I think just based on the depth of this wide receiver class, I know you have a different take on it. I think Corley's going to be a really exciting player to watch. But, you know, I'm not going to take him at 39 or too early, I think, at the right spot. I think the Eagles probably get him, and he ends up becoming a stud, if we're being quite honest with you. But I know you have your thoughts. What do you think?
I just wanted to touch on Corley because I'm really disappointed. He had COVID, so he didn't participate in the NFL scouting combine. I think he's a guy that could have flown up the boards. Like you're talking about, he's not going to be an option number 39.
Might be good for the Giants.
Yeah, that's my takeaway from this. That's what I wanted to mention is like this is a guy that I think had he went to the combine and performed well, I think he would have had a blazing fast 40. I think he would have done the bench. I think he would have had incredible explosive drills and results in those, and probably weighed in at a very solid weight for a wide receiver, looking more like a running back. Like this is a guy I think was going to be one of the biggest winners of the combine, wasn't able to participate. Probably going to be a big loser because of that. Maybe falls into that 4th, 5th round where you feel more than comfortable taking a flyer on a guy like that in the draft. So, yeah, I wanted to touch on Malachi Corley. I'm glad that you mentioned him. It sucks for him. Like, I feel bad that he didn't get to participate in this combine because he's one of those freakish athletes that probably would have really made some money in Indianapolis, but unfortunately wasn't afforded the opportunity to do so. So maybe even more likely target now for the Giants later on in the draft.
Absolutely. I mean, this dude is, you know, one of those guys that he breaks tackles. He's a gamer. He is high energy. He's a moldable piece, extension to the run game, decent route runner with upside potential. I mean, he's strong as nails. I really think he's going to be a solid NFL player for a team that operates in a way that maximizes his skill set. If you help him get into a spot where he can maximize his strengths, he's going to show you the type of value that you can get in that 3rd round right there. I think is where he may end up going. But honestly, Anthony, this isn't even a hot take. My favorite receiver in this draft class, the guy I think actually, okay, I'm not going to say favorite receiver. I love Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Rome Odunze. Those are my top 3 guys. But my number 4, my 4th receiver in this draft class is Ladd McConkey. That might be crazy. I love Ladd McConkey. He is a crispy route runner, awesome hands. His yards after the catch are tremendous. He is a guy that's just going to be a good player in the NFL. You know what I mean? He just has that NFL feel about him. He gets open. He catches everything you throw his way. He makes tacklers miss. He picks up the extra yards. He fights. Like, this is a player I think is going to have a really successful NFL career. I think he's going to be a better Hunter Renfrow. You know what I mean? I think he's going to be a better version of him. And ultimately, if you're the Giants and you have those speed guys, he can be like the bigger version of Wan'Dale. He can be on the outside. He can move him into the Z, move him into the X, move him into the slot. You could do all these stuff with him, put him in motion, use him on jet sweeps, use him on reversals. The guy is a moldable piece. And if you're Brian Dable, you don't want one-trick ponies. You need a piece that's going to be maximized as a flexible, versatile weapon. Jalen Hyatt for right now is a one-trick pony. He's a 9-route guy. Wan'Dale Robinson is a one-trick pony. He is a slant, short route concept guy. They try to push him downfield. He can do it occasionally, but he is a short route guy for the most part. Ladd McConkey can do all of it. He's a awesome route runner on the outside. He can do so much for you deep, intermediate, short. He's all over the field. I really think that guy would be a tremendous Giant for a long time. If Ladd McConkey is there in the second round at 39 and the Giants don't go receiver in the first round, I am absolutely taking Ladd McConkey. He's going to be a great player. That's a guy I think I'm higher than most on. Another guy, Ricky Pearsall, a lot of people love him too. I just love Ladd McConkey. The way he plays, it just gives me such good, positive optimism in that I think he's going to translate as an instant impact player for a team that uses him the right way.
Yeah, man, I love Ladd McConkey. I'm not quite as high on him. He's not number 4 for me in this class, but I know you're not the only one that feels that way. There are other people who have him that high, and I think that he is an awesome route runner, great separator, just a really good player that I think does make sense for the Giants. I mean, I'm not sure if he's what they need. I'm not sure if he fits the mold that they're looking for. I think they're trying to find one of those, at all 3 levels, X receivers. Maybe Ladd McConkey can be that, though. He ran a blazing fast 40 time. I wasn't expecting him to move as quickly as he did. Actual athlete here, like a standout performer in this combine, and McConkey definitely made himself some money at Indianapolis, and I think that, if he is there at 39, obviously it's something that the Giants have to consider, but another one of those guys that was probably considered a day 2 pick, maybe now considered a day 1. Another guy that I want to mention, Alex, Jermaine Burton. The reason that I want to mention him, Alabama wide receiver, totally slept on. Nobody talks about this kid because I think he had 800 yards this past season, didn't have a ton of production. That Alabama offense was a rushing attack. They didn't throw the ball much. They didn't have a quarterback who was throwing the ball downfield and hitting the guys open. But I watched the Jermaine Burton film and I said, holy shit, this is Odell Beckham Jr. 2.0. And then he went to the NFL Scouting Combine, and I got to give you these numbers, Alex. It's amazing. Jermaine Burton, 6 foot, 196. OBJ at his combine, 5'11", 198. So 2 pounds difference. All right, now let's go into the vertical jump. 38.5 for Burton. How about for Odell Beckham Jr.? 38.5. And then go over to the speed. 40-yard dash time at 4.45. And how about OBJ at 4.43? I was 100% right on the athletic comparison between Jermaine Burton and Odell Beckham Jr. from watching the film. That's been confirmed now with the combine workouts, and I just think the playing style on Burton is so similar to OBJ. And honestly, Alex, here's a fun part about this, maybe not so fun part about this. There's even similarities with these guys and their on-field behavior. Jermaine Burton had a lot of outbursts for Alabama, so I think that's probably why he's not viewed as highly as some of these other prospects. But athletically, his testing was incredible, and he is built like Odell Beckham Jr. and a lot of these other top wide receivers in the NFL. So I think Jermaine Burton is another player that's being slept on and needs a little bit more buzz and could totally be an option for the Giants on day 2. He might even go in the 3rd round. But the last wide receiver that I want to hit on, Alex, before we start talking about some other players at other positions, we got to talk about A.D. Mitchell because he might have been the biggest standout performer of any of the wide receivers in this draft class. The other Texas wide receiver, right? I mean, the measurements were perfect. We know that his hands are amazing. He had 1 drop in 2023. He just looked like the best athlete all around, complete wide receiver, size, speed, athleticism, everything. It was A.D. Mitchell in this draft. And honestly, again, another player that I thought could be an option at 39. I don't think he's an option anymore. I think he's going in the 1st round. He probably made himself that much money at the combine. But what's your kind of reaction to that, and maybe to the idea that if the Giants don't go wide receiver at number 6, let's say that a quarterback falls into their lap, they still hold that number 39 pick. Maybe they trade up into the back end of the 1st round, take a guy like A.D. Mitchell. How do you feel about that, and what are your thoughts on him?
Look, A.D. Mitchell had a really, like you said, a couple solid performances there, and, he is a big guy. A lot of people compare him to CeeDee Lamb. I think that His size, his range, you can compare, but I don't think his yards after the catch or anything similar. He's a physical guy. This is a good, clean route runner, good hands. He's going to be an impact piece for a team. Like, he has quintessential wide receiver frame. Like, he is built like a superstar receiver. That is what he is built like. He doesn't have the top end speed of a superstar receiver. So you can live with that, though. Like, not every receiver has the blazing speed. Like, DeAndre Hopkins is not a blazing fast receiver, but he is a smart receiver, great hands, and a tremendous route runner. That's the type of guy that, ends up making money. Chris Godwin, similar, not blazing speed, great hands, great route runner. Mike Evans, not blazing speed, great hands, great router, physical. Like, you don't need the top end speed to be a great NFL receiver. A.D. Mitchell has everything else, right? He has everything but that top-end speed to me and yards after the catch qualities, but it doesn't mean he's not capable or he can't develop or he can't become that. Just doesn't have it right now. I think that if the Giants could land him at the top end of the second or even move up a couple spots to get him, I'd be absolutely down. And I hate the fact that the Chiefs are going to end up getting a receiver at 32 that is going to be elite, because that's how good this draft class is, and that's how good the receiver. They didn't win with any receivers last year. They're going to get a primo level receiver at 32, and we're going to watch Mahomes win another championship next year. Book it, guarantee it if those guys stay healthy. So it's annoying to me, but it is what it is. Also indicates if you're the Giants, you don't necessarily need to go receiver at 6 because you can get that much value in the second round. But of course, passing on Neighbors or Dunze, it's hard to pass on those guys. We're talking about blue chip talents in a draft class that is already deep at receiver. They're just that level above. It's scary how good these guys are. So, A.D. Mitchell, big fan of his. I think he would be a great player for the Giants. Very different than some of the guys we've discussed, though, right? Ladd McConkey, very different player than A.D. Mitchell. The Neighbors, very different player. Odunze's even different. So, I think that, would I be upset? Absolutely not. These receivers are absolutely awesome in their individual ways. All of them have individual, if not multiple, elite traits. So, hard to say no to some of these guys. It's just knowing how much depth is here at the receiver position. It's damn. I wish we didn't have to take one at 6 if we miss out on a quarterback. You know what I mean? Because there's so much good talent in the second round.
I don't think anything stops you though from taking a receiver at 6 and at 47 if the board falls that way. If you're going BPA and a receiver is the BPA at 6 and at 47, what stops you from revamping your receiving core for the next 5 years? I don't think much does. I think you can go ahead and take 2. It's kind of tough to argue that because this is a team with a whole lot of needs, but honestly, man, it's such a deep wide receiver class. I wouldn't be upset if the Giants double dipped on this class. There is just so much talent. I would love to land 2 really primo wide receivers in this class. But, there's a lot of standout performance, Alex. We're talking quarterback, offensive line, defensive line. There's a linebacker who stood out. Peyton Wilson was sick. He looks like he went from day 2 to day 1. A lot of these guys did that. Not a whole lot of guys who fell down the draft board necessarily. Of course, Caleb Williams, some are arguing that maybe he should fall down the draft board because people don't like his demeanor in his press conference and the fact that he didn't do his medicals. I don't know. I don't really want to dive into that one just yet. But Jaden Daniels, again, not throwing. We'll see how that affects his draft stock. I guess before we wrap up, Alex, are there any prospects that you want to discuss or hit on for the Giants before we wrap? And then I got one last question for you.
All right. We could discuss one last guy in Chop Robinson who bulldozed the combine. Dude just put up ridiculous speed. What, do you run a 4.4 or something like that? For a player of his size, that is stupendous. You know what I mean? You don't see it very often. He had a 4.48 40-yard dash, 99.6 percentile. He's putting, he put the case in point in being a first-round pick. Had a 1.54 split, 99.2nd percentile, 4.25 shuttle, 91st percentile at 6'2", 254. Ridiculous. With that type of upside, that type of profile, if you're a team that has a good coaching staff, Chop Robinson is going to become a very good player for you. And to me, my man is going right to the Baltimore Ravens. Jadeveon Clowney, see you later in free agency. My man is going to the Ravens, and he is going to become a stud on the Ravens. I can already foresee this happening. I could be wrong, but I see him being a really good athletic, just a developmental guy that just bleeds potential, and the Baltimore Ravens are the perfect place to maximize a player like that who already have a sick defense. So could see it happening. If he was there in 39, of course, would love the Giants to get him. This is a player with, you want to build a future around because I think he has that type of potential. So, I know you're a big Chop Robinson fan.
Huge Chop Robinson fan. Again, another guy who I like in round 2. If he's there, maybe he goes round 1. I'm not sure, but elite athlete, freakish athleticism. We knew that was the case. Like, that's the number one selling point that you see on his film. Quick first step, all that. But this is a guy like we just talked about in our last episode, Alex, Danielle Hunter being a potential target for the Giants in free agency. We know that they're targeting pass rushers. If they can't get a pass rusher in free agency, I think on day 2 you can bet that they're going to target a guy like a Chop Robinson or maybe a Darius Robinson. There's some other guys that we've discussed as well, but I do really like Chop, and his athletic testing was elite at the combine. But Alex, before we wrap it up, I got one last thing that I got to ask you. This J.J. McCarthy news, man. If he's there at number 6 and the New York Giants take him, I need to know just how upset I have to prepare for you to be. How bad is it going to be when we do that live stream in April if he does go number 6? Just, don't spend too much time on it, but just briefly, what's my fair warning here? Trying to bunker down before the storm comes in. I just hear too much about J.J. McCarthy now. It really sounds like he's going to be a top 5 to 6 pick, and it really does sound like the Giants are considering it. Who knows? This could be the smokescreen. I'm not sure, but if it does happen, similar to 2019, there was a quarterback that we didn't really want, and they took him at number 6, and here we are all these years later. Are you feeling like it's going to be the same thing with J.J. McCarthy if he gets selected at 6, or you maybe the more you see, more you read, maybe starting to get open to the idea?
Look, anyone the Giants draft, I'm going to root for. Let me get that out of the way first and foremost. Even if it's J.J. McCarthy, I'm going to pray to God they got it right and pray to God he is what they think he can be. Do I think it's the right pick? That's a different discussion. I think right now, J.J. McCarthy is young. He needs time. I think we're looking at a 3 to 4 year window of where he will get to that peak. I think he is best suited to go to a team with a better foundation than ours. But if the Giants don't have to move from 6 to get him, and you can use all your second round picks to get all this receiver talent, and then use Daniel Jones as a bridge quarterback, I could stand behind that and say, all right, I hope you guys get it right. I hope Joe Shane knows what he's doing. I hope this is the right way to go. It's not my preference, but I'm going to support it no matter what because it's the Giants. Look, when it comes to J.J. McCarthy, the more I've watched, the more I've read, he's a great kid, great personality. He's got good tools. He can throw on the run. People, when they show his film, the one thing I notice is they show the same 3 clips of his of what he can do. It's not a huge sample size, and that's what concerns me. If you go ask someone, like, show me what J.J. McCarthy can do, it's the same 3 plays or 4 plays over and over and over and over. And I'm like, guys, I need to see 20, 30 plays of this. You know what I mean?
Sounds like another quarterback I know, huh?
Exactly. So that's the point, though, is I need to see consistency. And he could do it. The fact that he can do it opens up the thought process of, okay, if he can do it, maybe he can do it frequently. But then we see like Spencer Rattler has film that shows he can do that stuff on the run. Michael Penix can do it on the run. Even freaking Bo Nix has film that shows he can do it on the run. You know what I mean? We can nitpick and we can cherry pick the film that shows what we want to tell. But what's the sample size of actual success in this? Every quarterback has a couple of great plays. I need to see more of it. I get the tools are there. At 6, I know that teams are always going to take more of a risk because it's the quarterback position, and I get that. And I'll support JJ, and I'll support the Giants if they go in that direction. And the rumors suggesting he could go as high as the QB3, I think that's outrageous, personally. I think that's total nonsense. If anyone goes with JJ over May, Daniels, or Caleb, I think that it's a huge gamble, and whatever team does that understands that JJ is not sniffing the field for at least a year, right? That'll be a Jordan Love situation. I don't think that you're going to see JJ play in 2024, or at least start if a team goes in that direction. I think the Giants aren't that far off from being competitive. Maybe they develop JJ and then he takes over in 25 and, they go from there. It's totally possible, but it's certainly a gamble. I love Jaden Daniels. That's my guy. I think he would start day 1 and probably get us to the postseason if he stays healthy. That's my personal take. But with that being said, I get that you're probably going to have to move up for Jaden Daniels, and then if you can get JJ at 6 and keep all your draft capital it certainly isn't a bad alternative. And you can make the argument that it's worthwhile waiting because you get to keep all your second round picks, keep your first round capital, and you're really in a decent spot for the future. So maybe that's the decision they go. Maybe that's what the Giants are thinking. They're willing to develop. They after all, they hire Brian Dable to develop quarterbacks. You might as well give him a player with all the raw attributes and tools and leadership qualities to do it. I can support it. I'll stand by the Giants as I always do, even though, I may prefer they go in a different direction.
I think that's a good intro to the feelings on that. Of course, I mean, we've got a long time between now and the draft. This conversation is going to happen more than once. This topic is going to get brought up plenty, especially if it becomes a reality in April. I'll say J.J. McCarthy, I've started to warm up to the idea. I'm still not there with him at the number 6 overall pick. But if it happens, it happens. And I'm just going to hope and pray that Brian Dable is able to turn him into a superstar. I'll trust that Dable knows better than I do. I'll trust that Joe Schoen knows better than I do. And that if they do end up taking this guy at number 6, there's a good reason for it. So we'll see what happens, man. It's going to be interesting. I'll say J.J. McCarthy coming in, I think at 220 pounds, taller than Caleb Williams as well. He definitely did himself favors in the weigh-in and in the measurements portion of the combine. And then, like you said earlier, threw some good passes in the drills, a little bit of a timing problem, doesn't have this chemistry with the receivers, but also threw the ball exceptionally fast. Velocity has never been a question mark for J.J. McCarthy. I actually think he has one of the better arms in this class, but overall, we'll see what happens. I think his interviews with teams like the Giants are really what's going to push him up the board. If he had a great interview with a guy or with a team like Minnesota or with New York, I'm not sure. So I'm still super curious to see what other rumors we get. And like I keep saying, guys, tomorrow, deadline, franchise transition tag, all that stuff. Let's see what happens with Xavier McKinney. We're going to continue to update you on everything about the New York Giants right here on Fireside Giants. So make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. And comment your thoughts on the topics down below in the comment section. If you listen to Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one. And let's go Giants.